What's going on, everyone? My name is Under the Radar, and welcome back to the Pokemon Draft League. Now, if you do not know what Pokemon Draft League is, because you've been here for the singles Wi-Fi-Battles and the VGC and all the other good stuff on this channel, welcome to the most addicting lifestyle you will ever be introduced to. This is the Pokemon Draft League. It's basically fantasy football, but for Pokemon. What that means is that we get a group of people in, and then one at a time you draft one Pokemon. You draft up to, typically it's 11. This season we did 10. And you're typically in point constraints, and you have to draft within those point constraints. Get a team of Pokemon, and then each week you go up against one other coach that has their own team. And that is the whole idea behind Pokemon Draft League. It is so much fun. It is great. We only play on Wi-Fi here on this channel because I think it's more aesthetically pleasing. And this is the Prep City Tournament. Okay, Prep City Tour is it's basically a Discord server that I'm in with me and a bunch of the boys. We're all homies, we're all friends, we're in call every night together, and that is who's in this. Guy like JV, Q the Costa Rican, Trexo, Lucas, people like that. But we decided we're gonna do, for the first draft league of Sword and Shield, we're gonna do a free draft. We're not banning nothing. Okay, Palafin allowed. Chien Pao allowed. Terrastalizing, yeah, you have to make a Terrastal captain, but it could be any type you want. Houndstone allowed, Fluttermane allowed, everything is allowed. It's the first draft league. You don't want to start restricting it already this early into the season, into the game. So we allowed everything, and we are here for a good time. This is going to be a quick draft analysis. I'm not going to make it too in-depth, but basically, first Pokemon I drafted was Chien Pao. I wanted someone with super good speed because I think that speed in this generation is even more important than it was in last generation. I think you have to have something with elite speed or really good priority. This has both. You like Weavile? Well, I got Mega Weavile. Really, really, really good Pokemon. Its ability makes it to where things are weaker. They take more damage from its physical moves, and its base 120 attack is insane. With Swords Dance, I think this thing is going to be really, 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 really good, and I'm really excited for it. Its nickname is going to be Tommy Oliver. Shout out, rest in peace, Tommy Oliver. I guess Jason David Frank is his real name, so I guess I'll be respectful and I'll say rest in peace, Jason David Frank, White Tiger. The second Pokemon that we decided to grab was Glimmora. I wanted Glimmora because I think hazards are phenomenal, and Glimmora is the best hazard setter in the game. With its base 86 speed, it's able to outspeed a lot of hazard removers, but also being able to set up things just by being on the field and getting hit. So like if they're going for a U-turn strat, you're going to end up getting up T-spikes, which is phenomenal. It is also a really good hazard removal with Mortal Spin. Being able to poison your opponent and get rid of your opponent's hazards is phenomenal. But on top of that, something that I don't think a lot of people look at is I think Glimmora is a phenomenal Pokemon in just the offensive category. Base 130 special attack is phenomenal. This thing has the exact same special attack as Gengar does. So it's really, 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 really strong. But I got it primarily for the hazards because I think hazards are super, super important this gen. The third Pokemon I decided to get was Palmot for a couple different reasons. One, I wanted Palmot with Revival Blessing. I think that is super, super slept on. Being able to, I can throw away my Chien Pao early on, right? I can use it to break the Chien Pao check, and then I can use Revival Blessing and just bring it back and then sweep. Phenomenal. But I also really like this thing for its breaking potential with moves like Double Shock, Close Combat, Iron Fist boosted, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, Fire Punch, Mach Punch, things like that. I think it has a lot of potential to be a really good wall breaker on top of being a really good just offensive Pokemon and support Pokemon with Revival Blessing. The fourth Pokemon I decided to draft was Donphan. Donphan hasn't been in a cartridge game or an actual game in 3 years, so I haven't had a chance to use it, but I love Donphan. Fun fact, it was actually one of my favorite Pokemon of all time just because of the movie that it was in a really, really long time ago. I can't even remember if it was the third Pokemon movie with Entei. But I really love its design. But on top of that, this thing is really, really good at being a hazard remover. Now that heavy duty boots exist with sturdy, it can always come in and it can always rapid spin. It can always get off one hit with something. Having access to knockoff still is really good in this gen. With Earthquake, Rapid Spin, still gets Ice Shard. It gets everything. That makes it good. So I think Donphan is just overall phenomenal. The fifth Pokemon I decided to draft was Gengar, which is probably a little weird to some of you guys whenever you think that I just got Glimmora, which is base 130 special attack, poison type, similar coverage, things of that nature. And while yes, it is weird, they do very different things while also being able to do the exact same thing. So Gengar is a phenomenal breaker, right? And people usually only have one check. But imagine if their check has to deal with 2 Gengars on a team, and that becomes a little bit problematic. Also, if one of them becomes the hazard setter, because Gengar does get T-Spikes now. So now you have to be careful as to what you think you're going to do, whether you're going to be like a T-Spikes abuser with Gengar or an offensive Pokemon, and then a T-Spikes abuser with Glimmora plus an offensive Glimmora. So it kind of gives me a little bit of versatility in what I want the Pokemon to do, but it also gives me the ability to run 2 really good offensive poison types, which I think are phenomenal because steel types are kind of a dime a dozen in this gen. Like you're going to see, I don't even draft a steel type this game. Next up, we ended up getting Ditto. The reason why I wanted Ditto is because, now, as funny as this sounds, there's a lot of broken Pokemon, right? There's Fluttermane, Roaring Moon, Iron Valiant, like all of these broken Pokemon that people are going to have. I want them. So I want to make sure that my opponents can't just come in, set up, and sweep me. So that's why I have Ditto, and that's pretty much the only reason why I drafted it, because I know there's a lot of broken Pokemon, and I want to force people to not be able to bring whatever the hell they want on their setup Pokemon and just sweep me. The next Pokemon I got was Darkspun. Now, I got Darkspun because it's a fairy type, and it's a good fairy type at that. It still gets access to Wish, it has Play Rough, it has Body Press, it's an immunity to fire types, which is really good. But ultimately, it's just a really good supportive pivot Pokemon. It can tank hits for days. It's able to tank 2 Garchomp BQs. So, like, that's the main thing that I wanted, is I wanted something that could come in, take a physical hit, Wish up, switch out, and potentially heal up the rest of the team, since so far the team is pretty offensive aside from Donphan. Right after Darkspun, I ended up drafting Talonflame, and I drafted Talonflame because I wanted something that was a little bit better in the speed tier department. Now, if you know me, I don't really care too much about speed tiers. I think that if you prep knowing what your opponent can bring, then you're in a really good spot. But I really like Talonflame's 126 speed tier with its flying priority of Brave Bird with Gale Wings and heavy duty boots, things like that. But I also really like Flame Body because I think that pivoting and Volt Turn is really, really good this gen. So being able to have 2 things that prevent my opponents from clicking U-turn is really helpful. Like, you're either going to get Flame Body or you're going to set up a T-Spike. One of the 2, you decide. So I really, really like that aspect of Talonflame. But I also drafted it because I wanted to use it after my buddy Billy used it in one league, and he just kept saying, "Good bird, good bird." I want to be able to say good bird, so we got good bird. Next up, we have Goodra. Now, Goodra is a Pokemon that I really, really like. It's one of my favorite pseudo legendaries because it's so unbelievably fat on the special side with an Assault Vest. Like, this thing can take Gardevoir Moonblast. This thing can take Dazzling Gleams from Togekiss. Like, it can take super effective hits and pretend they're not even super effective, which is phenomenal. Its coverage is also really, really good with, like, Bolt Beam. It gets Sludge Wave, Body Press. Like, it has really good coverage. So I do really, really like Goodra as a Pokemon just for being a tank, and the combination of Goodra plus Darkspun plus Talonflame can create a really good wall core and whenever you throw Donphan in there too, that is just really, really good. And without Scald being here anymore, it's phenomenal. So I really like Goodra on this team. And then the final mon that I drafted was the Dunsparce, and I drafted it for a couple of reasons. 1, there is a Fluttermane that exists, and 2, there is a Houndstone that exists. So I wanted to get a normal type Pokemon that could tank on both of those pretty easily and force them to run like Calm Mind and a really bulky set, or Body Press with their Houndstone. And I'm going to try to be able to like counter those with this Pokemon. So I think that is pretty much the only reason why I drafted this thing, but it does get access to Stealth Rocks, Roost, Coil, Glare, so it gets a really good support utility move pool, but it also is pretty bulky and pretty offensive too with 100 special attack. But that is going to be the team that I'm going to be using for the Prep City Tour. I'm super excited for it. The first battle goes up tomorrow, so make sure you guys keep your eyes peeled for it, because it is a phenomenal battle. We're going up against Trexo. I haven't played it yet, but let's pretend I have. It's a phenomenal battle because it's Prep City Tour. You know what I mean? I mean, come on. If you guys could, just do me a favor, leave a like down below and give me some nickname ideas for these Pokemon. Now, at the time of recording this, I will, like, you guys seeing this, I will be playing my week 1 tonight, so I'm not going to be able to use your nicknames for the first one. The only nickname I have set in stone is Tommy Oliver for Chien Pao. Everything else, You guys let me know what I should nickname it. With that, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the battle tomorrow.